Alright, this is the demo video for assembling the parts for your Dragster car. You should have 3 parts now. You should have your car, the wheel, and the axle. To assemble, we're going to need to start a new type of file. If we go up here to our File button, we select, I'm going to go down here to New. Now when we click on New, we've got several options. We've been doing parts. This is an assembly. I'm going to put several parts together. Click OK when this warning comes up, and we'll start an assembly. Okay, to build the assembly, we need to place the parts in the file. Up here on the left is our place component option, and we're going to click place. Make sure when you do this, all of your parts are in the same folder. Here I've got new folder 2, and I've got Dragster Axle, Dragster Car, Dragster Wheel. They're all in that folder. So we're going to, let's start with the Dragster Car. We're going to click open on that. Okay, here we go. You see it's getting ready to be placed. It will allow you to place more than one. I do not want more than one. I only want one. So I'm going to hit escape and place just one of these. Okay, now we're going to go back in here and place the axle. Open that up. Now, here, interestingly, I will want actually 2 of these. I'm going to put one on this side and one over here. We'll use those in a minute. Now, once I've placed those 2, I'm going to hit the escape key and end my placing. Last thing we need to make this work is the wheels. We're going to click on Dragster Wheel here and open. Now, we're going to need 4 of these. I'm just going to stack those up in a row over here. Later on, we'll get to using those. That's 4. There we go. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our axles into our car. And we're going to use what's called a constraint. A constraint limits how far something can move and limits where it is. Before we do that, we want to make sure that our car stays stationary and that our axle wheels move to it. To do that, we're going to do what's called grounding it. We're going to go down here to the middle of this box. To get that box up, what I did is I went over to the car. I can do that here where it's highlighted, or I can do it in the browser. Either place, you're going to want to right click. When you right click, this option will come up. Right here in the middle is your grounded. Once you ground something, you'll notice that here we've got a little push pin that shows up on it in the browser that shows that the car itself can't move. If I click on these other components, I could drag them around. You won't need to, but you could. Constraint. Constraint is going to apply the limits that will put up your car together. Now, we're putting a round axle into a round hole. We're going to use what's called an insert constraint. Now, to insert, we're going to select this axle. You notice that when we select the axle, we can select either end of the axle. We can select the end down here, it highlights, or if we move our mouse this way, this end will highlight. We're actually going to use this end, and we're going to constrain it to this end of this hole. And we'll do something else here in a second, but first we're going to click here and there. Now, notice the axle is sticking out this way. We actually probably want it the other way. So we're going to choose the second part of our solution here, which is aligned. Okay, you're probably looking at this and thinking this is still not correct. Well, we have a 1-inch thick car and a 2-inch long axle. The difference is 1, and we want half on each side. So if we let a 1/2 inch of axle hang out on each side of the car, with 1 inch inside the car, that'll give us our 2-inch axle, and it will be lined up. So we're going to go here to our offset box and type in 0.5. And depending on which way it goes, we may need to change it to a -0.5. Okay, at that point it looks like we've got our axle set in there pretty good. We're going to click apply. I'm going to close this for a second, look at this from our top view. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Going back to our home view, we're going to put our second axle into the car. Once again, this is constrain, and we're doing an insert. We're going to insert this to here, and switch our solution, and type in our -0.5. There we go, got our axle set. Now, the next thing is to start putting on these wheels. Now, you notice these wheels and the wheels that we'll be using have a hub that sticks out. We're going to want this towards the inside of the car. So we're actually going to use a constraint from the outside of the wheels. So let's get this car rotated to this view here. Okay. Now, we want to use this outside circle and this end of the axle to do this constraint. Let's get this thing here back on centered on the screen. Constraint. Insert again. We're going to use that again. And we're going to connect that outside of this axle to the outside circle of the center of the wheel. Make sure you get those. And then if we go down here, we should be able to check and see that that's working. You notice right here, it looks like our hub has come to the outside. So we're going to flip our solution so the axle is flush. Apply that. Okay, we're going to do that again. We're going to get to where we can see this axle back here. We're going to choose that outside, that outside. That looks good. Apply. Now, those are those two wheels. Now we're going to rotate to the other side of the car over here. I've zoomed way out. Let's get back in there. We want to constrain. We're going to do this outside edge. Now, when we do the outside edge of this wheel, we want to be careful we're getting the outside edge of that smaller hole, and that's, you see, that's giving us a little bit of trouble. So we might need to rotate over here to make sure we get the outside edge of one of these. Right there. Now, I made a problem. I have an error. I'm doing this constraint. We want to switch that to an insert. Alright. So, redoing our insert constraint here and here. So I had accidentally clicked mate there, and we want to do insert instead of mate. So let's redo that. Okay, now that we have that reselected, let's go down here and check this axle. And if we need to, we'll flip it so the axle shows up here at the end. We'll apply. And we're going to do another insert constraint, and it's going to be this end of that axle to this wheel. We'll make sure we're aligning with that outside edge there. And then before we click apply, we're going to check our solution. Zoom in on that and see, looks good. Apply. Alright, that sets our car up with wheels and axles. That's the assembly. It should go fairly quick. Once you're done, please remember to save. So you're going to want to go up here and save this as probably Dragster Assembly would be a good name, and you're done.